please.
The press and the Down Beach Current were notified of this meeting. A copy of the same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building and on the municipal website. The meeting will come to order. Would you please stand for the flag salute? Attention and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Here.
We have before us the minutes of our November 21st meetings. What is your pleasure, please?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Is
Yes.
there any public comment? You may comment on anything at this point.
Dan Gottlieb for 7 North Nassau again. Just going back to some of the questions I had earlier. Brenda, I thought you said waiting for an agreement. Could you just clarify what you meant by that?
Yeah. What I was referring to was if there's a resolution out there, as you know, and Mike, the Mayor Becker, is meeting with the Commissioner Martin, the head of the DEP. No one knows how this is going to go forward right now. We don't. But if it does, what would happen, and this was outlined in the questions that you gave me that I brought October 29th that you weren't able to be passed out. It says that if we were to move forward, the New Jersey DEP and the United States Army Corps of Engineers will enter into a project partnership agreement and then provide Margate a state aid agreement. That's what I said, and I
Has
can
there
give you
been
this.
any conversation since the ordinance or the resolution was passed, since the vote with the...
No, not with me.
DEP, okay. Does anyone know how the conversation with Martin did wind up in the paper? Because you said, Mayor, that he was a little upset that it wound up in the paper. Do we know how that happened?
I have no idea.
Okay. I want to just segue real briefly into another topic, and Scott, I think this goes to some of the comments you made at the end of the last meeting. And it sort of also speaks to what Mr. Warner said. The governor is not the emperor, he's not the king. He is a lawyer. I would hope that he understands the law. I would hope that he understands that if the people are overridden by someone and that the law doesn't apply, that we're in a lawless town. And I know it's your position and your job to defend the law of the city, and it struck me as confusing that based on previous remarks that you've made on the record, and I'll use Executive Order 140 as an example, that you've said in the past that, and I know there's other things that they're trying to hang their hat on, but that Executive Order 140, which is part of the process, speaks specifically to eminent domain, and that the Section 4 of 140 speaks specifically to eminent domain. I guess the question is this: what law is in place federally or statewide that is going to allow the state or the federal government to deny what the people of Margate have said they want to see have happen? What do you think is going to allow them to trump the city?
Do you want me to answer? You can answer.
It is the state's belief that under eminent domain, three things I'm going to tell you, Dan, and this is not my opinion, okay? Eminent domain, Title 12, and the Disaster Control Act, that's where they believe they have enough power to basically force a project like this on a community, in spite of a referendum.
Okay. Okay, so they think that it's the Disaster Control Act, then,
That's
and...
one leg.
That's
And,
one way. The three things. Title 12 are the rules and regulations that govern the Department of Environmental Protection.
okay, Title 12, does that also speak to eminent domain?
No. Eminent domain is a separate issue.
it's a very broad area of DEP authority, which is Commissioner Martin's in charge of. A lot of rules and regulations in there. Yes.
Scott, is it possible for you at some point, just to, maybe not at this meeting, but at a different time, maybe where you could just explain that to me? Because I have a lot of people asking me these questions.
Dan, it's a wide open question that I really don't have 100%, no one would have 100% answer. The governor is asserting his authority as the executive of this state by an executive order. He's citing 3 sources of his authority. Actually, there's even more sources of his authority, going back to the state constitution. If this goes to court, it'll be a constitutional battle. It'll be one of the main issues. And this is going to be something, if it should happen to go to court. I'm not saying the city of Margate wants to go in that direction, but it's a very complicated answer. But the bottom line is, as you well know, he's one of the most powerful chief executives in the country. He has this disaster relief, I don't have the exact words, was it?
Disaster Control Act.
Control Act. He has the broad powers of the DEP, and he has the powers of eminent domain. Under the state constitution is eminent domain for a public purpose. And the argument is that for a public purpose, i.e. the safety of the public at large, the state of New Jersey has the right to utilize eminent domain. I'm not saying that's correct. I'm saying that's what their position's from. We would have to withstand that. We, being the one community out of how many, 100 and some, would have to go to court and literally fight to say we don't want the shore protection that every other community along the Jersey coastline's having. I'm not an advocate for it, Dan. I think you know what my personal feelings are. But I'm just telling you that this is a big uphill fight.
I would just tell you that we expected that Executive Order 140 and anything surrounding eminent domain was going to be we expected that to come into play.
And the executive order forbids Margate to in any way interfere with those
Eminent
efforts.
domain, and we understand that, and we get that.
Say eminent domain.
But, and I'm going to wrap up.
Well, it's inferring eminent if it doesn't specifically say. We know that's what he's talking about.
Well, you said in the past that you felt that provision 4 inside Executive Order 140 speaks to eminent domain.
Clearly, that's
Yes.
certainly the intent.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
So-
if you read his articles where he's quoted, that's what he believes.
Okay, so for the Disaster Control Act, it speaks to an impending or existing emergency. And I guess the question is there anything out there right now that speaks to an existing or an impending
I
emergency?
agree with you, Dan. As far as I know, there's no
I agree.
hurricane warning today. No.
I agree with you also, Dan. We're just telling you what their position is.
Okay, well, Scott, I guess the question either to you or to the commission would then be, if you guys are in agreement with that, why wouldn't we, as a community who says we don't want this, despite what some other people think, expend some of the city's resources to fight for what the people want? And I think, truthfully, that our group is about to go public with a request that the city do that, and I just want to know how the commission and how the solicitor feel about defending the city's vote based on the fact that how we interpret the Disaster Control Act and how we interpret Executive Order 140, that we feel that we do have legal grounds to stand on. Why wouldn't we expend a small amount of city dollars to see if there exists a fatal flaw in the argument of the governor, who I think, based on the way we speak about him tonight, and I don't want to pick a fight with the governor, I respect him tremendously, but is, throwing his weight around, pardon the pun, like he's the emperor or the king, when in fact he's a lawyer and he has to abide by the laws of that he believes he's right on, but we have laws here too that are on our books and that we have to defend based on what our people have said at the non-binding referendum. Did somebody want to comment?
Dan, go ahead. You're the solicitor. Go for it.
Diane, it was a non-binding referendum to give guidance on whether or not the city should sign the shore protection agreement.
Yes.
That's what it was. It was not a referendum on should we fight and lawyer up and fight the state of New Jersey if they decide through the governor's office to pump sand on the beach. So there's one fundamental difference there. Now, ultimately, the commission's going to have to make that decision if the state of New Jersey desires to go forward, and they line up with their pipes. The private property owners who are most affected, i.e. the beachfront owners, they also would have the right to challenge that. And they may decide that my feeling, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight. I think this thing would go possibly to the Supreme Court.
And I would want to know, I would want an estimate of what it would cost
I mean,
before we could vote on that.
Clearly, this isn't a $10,000 or $20,000 case. This is a very high-powered case going against a governor who has made it a state policy. So we're talking a lot of money here, and I'm not asking to do it. I don't want to do it. I'd want to find a very high-powered law firm to do that if the governing body decides that the taxpayers of this city should pay the money to fight the state.
And Brenda made a request that she'd like to know about what the estimate of the cost would be. And I would like to know, when that estimate of the cost is provided, what that would look like on a cost comparison to a quote-unquote optional renourishment program over 50 years.
When you're fighting the resources of the state of New Jersey, it'll be a lot of money. So
Right.
I don't have the exact amount. I can't.
Will it be $15 million? Will it be $10 million? I don't
I
think
think
so.
you're talking hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Realistically, that's what I think you'd
Okay,
be fighting.
thank you very much.
You're welcome,
Thank you.
Dan.
Anyone else?
Sewell, 22 West Drive, there. On Monday, the front page headline had to do with home rule. And on Monday, Denny Levinson weighed in as the county executive, once again pointing out that the state of New Jersey has 616 school districts, more than Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware combined. Which led me to think, why don't I go down and visit your buddy, Dr. Kelly's better half, Teresa Kelly, the Shiksa-Balabusta vintner. And at that point, I knew where to find her because she does her job, and she does it well. She works for less than minimum wage, because the other two commissioners there are virtually useless. And I asked her directly,
John, let's be respectful.
those two commissioners are useless. I'll repeat it again. If they think it's slanderous, they can sue me. I don't think they'll win as public figures, wouldn't you say, Counselor? You can't take the heat, Mayor. You shouldn't be in the kitchen.
Not my heat, John.
And I'll tell that to the other Mikey to his face. Useless is the word, useless. There's no other term to fit those two characters. But let us get back to what we were saying there. I spoke to Commissioner Kelly directly concerning the situation we have where both this commission and the Margate School Board stonewalls any attempt at shared services. Teresa Kelly said in no uncertain terms that they stand ready, willing, and able to share services with Margate. And I think it's time, Mayor, if you don't want to sit on your hands with the election a year away, that's fine. But perhaps your cohort, co-defendant, and co-conspirator might want to traipse down to City Hall. No, it's not Maury. Maury's not being sued. Not being sued to my knowledge. Not yet, at least. He doesn't frequent Colmar, so he's pretty safe. But I would suggest that perhaps Ms. Taube might want to go mano a mano, or woman to woman.
Point of order here, please.
Pardon?
Point of order, Mayor.
I'm just making a suggestion. I think this is a grand place to make a suggestion. I don't want to talk about the Eagles winning or losing. I want to talk about tax dollars. And I think if the mayor doesn't want to do anything, he wants to continue stonewalling, and you do not wish to carry through on your promise to introduce an ordinance to put an end to nepotism, patronage, cronyism, and pay-to-play, including that scourge of services in kind. If you don't want to follow through, if you want to be a blow-that-her, great, you can talk this, but you've got to walk the walk at some point. And walking the walk about consolidating school services, there's no time like the present. And you can find Teresa Kelly in Ventnor City Hall any day you like. She's there doing her job. It's time for your cohort to do the same. Thank you very much, ma'am.
All right. Just for the public record, John, sit down first. Sit down. John?
Due time there, be patient.
I know, John.
I can walk you.
I have my sergeant at arms here, John. You're in trouble. John, a couple of years ago, we had several agreements with the Ventnor Board of Education, and each time they backed out at the last minute. So don't preach to me about consolidation and sharing with the city of Ventnor. We have tried again, and tried again. Okay?
Mayor, can I say something? We have a public comment policy that I think we really need to enforce, and I'm embarrassed by the disrespect of Mr. Sewell. Furthermore, I've been here I've probably been at City Hall more than any other commissioner before me, and every day this week, almost all day, and I resent what you said.
Anyone else? Please come forward.
Glenn Klotz, 118 North Barclay Avenue. I just want to express my frustration with this whole process at this point, okay? I'd like to back up earlier into the year, all right? It seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, but at this point we have no official document from this. I mean, yeah, we have the governor saying this in the paper, we have Commissioner Martin calling, we have all of this talk, but we have nothing in writing that I know of. Maybe you could correct me, but we have nothing in writing from the state, from anybody. The governor, the attorney general. I would just like to see one document from the state saying, we're coming, we're going to do this project, okay, and then stating how this is going to happen, why it's going to happen, what statutes they're going to use to essentially enforce this. Nothing. All we have so far is talk. And worse, we have talk in the newspaper. Am I wrong? Do we have anything?
Mayor,
No.
you're dead wrong.
Okay.
We are on the schedule for the project. We are shown on the schedule that they are going to pump in sand and put dunes here. That is the published schedule. It shows Longport, it shows Margate. There is
That's
a
it.
plan.
That's the only-
it. Plus his executive order that says anybody's forbidden to interfere with that, interfere with their protection efforts. So you're basically not correct when you say that. When you say there's no document, you are not correct.
There's no document been sent to the city is what I mean.
Indeed, there's nothing specifically directed to Margate. There is the document in general that shows Margate on that list.
Okay, all right.
Well, that's-
Let me just
that's a
talk to
document.
something that you said, okay? You said that every community in the state, right, that the governor wants every community in the state to be in these projects.
That's my understanding.
Okay. I don't see him trying to force Wildwood to an agreement. I don't see him trying to force Loveladies into an agreement. There's other communities in the state that are not in these agreements. And there are communities, I was up here last time stating that there are other communities, like our sister communities, Ocean City and Brigantine, that are in state projects. They're not in federal projects. So I would just, look, I understand what you're saying, Scott, that they've published online some schedule. But that's not the same as getting official documents from this. I would think you're going to come into a town and you're going to essentially take over the beach. You're going to do what you want with the beach. an engineering plan. There's a lot of property involved, as you well know, private and city. I'm watching the process here in Longport go forward. They want to join, yet there's a lot of process, as you well know, they have to go through. So are we any different than Longport? Whether they're going to force us or not, where's the process here besides phone call? And no disrespect to the commissioner, but where does the process start?
And there was the request, straighten me out if I go wrong here, Mayor, one of the commissioners, we were requested to see if beachfront property owners would voluntarily deed over easements, and that's why we sent the letters. And I understand your blog site says you feel those letters were illegal, which I disagree.
So according to our ordinance, or my reading of it anyway.
It was for free. Would you deed them over to us for free? So, were they willing to? And we were, am I correct on this, commissioners? Weren't we requested as a city by the DEP to do that, either in writing or when they came here and met with us? They came here and met with us, and they wanted to see if the beachfront owners would voluntarily sign off and sign what we call the easement document.
Okay, so because there's no money involved, then you don't feel that
Let me
was...
say this to you, and again, I don't want to be talking all night. I'm very willing to reveal or show whatever we have. There are no secrets here. Whatever you guys want. I know you've asked for documents, whatever. I'm happy to explain it to you or give you my perspective from what I've seen. So when you say, well, it was illegal, why did we send a letter? Well, because we were requested to by the state. Am I wrong about that, Tommy? Didn't we have an official request from them to see if the people would sign off voluntarily?
Okay, but things have changed since then, we'd all agree.
Well, then now it's out there that there was an illegal act. So,
Well, whether it's illegal or not,
Glenn,
the city
can I-
have spoke, the voters have spoke. Should we be asking for people's property under those circumstances? I don't understand.
3 of them have said they'd love to sign.
That's not the point. Should
Glenn,
the city be asking under these
time out,
circumstances?
Glenn. Time out. Not trying to be evasive, but I don't think we're at the point where the state is going to send us a written document. Once again, the commissioner of DEP has called me and wants to start dialogue. I don't know where that dialogue is going to go. I really don't. But I want to sit down and have that with them, and maybe that will expand into a wider thing. I don't think their state is prepared to say they're going to assume take over Margate's beaches by eminent domain and build a dune project. So that document will probably happen at some time, whatever way it goes. There is no document now. There is no need for a document now.
We'll have to agree to disagree. I think there is a need for a document, but at the moment, we don't have one. We all agree.
Okay.
We just have a notice that we've been trying to get off of.
This is not adversarial. I said from day one that whatever the people of Margate spoke in a referendum, I would support that. I am doing that with the commissioner. It's, he's got a lot bigger cannon than I have. I'm trying to make a friend and trying to get him to do something for Margate. Let's see where it goes. Thank you.
Hey, Scott, can I ask you a question? Because you're informed on this, I think. We keep talking about an agreement and a contract or whatever, but is it not accurate that Ventnor's project took place without a signed state aid agreement?
The original beach fill took place. That is correct, Tom. The original beach fill in Ventnor took place because the governing body refused to sign the contract because there were certain provisions, the primary one being the requirement to get every beachfront owner to sign off. And at that point in time, and I was the city's solicitor, we felt it would cost millions of dollars to do that, and said so, and met with them and said, no, we can't do it. We're not going to go to court and spend that kind of money fighting beachfront owners who told us they don't want to sign anything. And that is why the mayor at that time said, no, we're not signing this contract. You change these provisions, we'll sign it.
And it was several years before another administration.
It was like 8 years later.
Yeah, and the point I'm
6 years.
saying is that people that may be waiting for a state aid agreement to happen, that may not happen. They might just come in here and do it.
I have a feeling that's the direction it's headed.
Yep.
No agreement.
You're
Just
right.
do
They
it.
could, it's theoretically possible, the state could come in here next week, start pumping sand. Well, I don't think it's going to be that quick because of the legal process, but anyone else?
Before I get into this continuing conversation, and I agree it's not adversarial, it's just frustrating to know that even though legally they may not have the right to come in, they could just come and start doing stuff to our beach without us as a commission even agreeing to it, and that's a scary proposition. So, we're just saying, look, we're aware that this could happen this way. Let's not let this happen if we can do something to not let this happen. But before I get into that, last meeting, I brought up the question of the amount of building and construction and permits that go on in this community, and Mr. Rubin spoke about it again today, demolitions and everything, and that our building department staff, Mayor, I spoke with you about it, is smaller and part-time, and there's a lot of work in that office. And have you talked to Jimmy about looking at maybe adding some more staff? There are people frustration with contractors and not being able to get done what they have to get done. It was just something I asked you to look into. I don't know if you did. Did you?
He did. Jimmy's not here. Jimmy's preparing a report to address all the issues that you brought up, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, okay, great, I appreciate that.
Okay.
I appreciate that. So just getting back to this thing, I think that the DEP has to give respect to our community and our commission as well. And that, whether we're going to go forward with the project or not going forward with the project, it would be nice to get a letter from someone saying, we plan to come in here and we're doing it on this basis or whatever, and you're scheduled for April 9th. It is a scary thought to think that they can just come in, and we do have ordinances and resolutions, and they have to stand for something. And, hopefully we're not going to be the case that goes to the Supreme Court, but somebody at some point has to say, wait a minute, where's the municipal ordinance and resolutions? We just have to support those law and our votes and everything, and so on and so forth. So it is a big issue. To me, that issue is bigger than the dunes. And I think it's really important, and I think it is best to negotiate and talk with them. My concern is, or I guess my question is, I think the mayor has to have some idea, unless it's just a meeting where he's going to go and listen to the commissioner. Commissioner's probably going to want to know, well, where do we stand in this? Are we just absolutely saying no? Is it going to be a legal battle? Or we want to sit down and talk? What are our issues? I think you and the commission need to talk about this and be prepared with at least, what it is we're hoping to get out. 3 of the things was take us off the schedule and do a study. If you look at the resolution, they're all 3 in there. All I'm saying is you just don't go to a meeting and be asked these questions and not being able to answer them, because it's not the mayor's opinion or decision, it's a whole city. So if some time could be put into that discussion, some formal answers that we can give, and maybe some timelines, look, this project's scheduled for the 9th, realistically, what does that mean? What do we have to do as a commission? If it's costing us money, we have to appropriate funds. There's a lot of work to be done, and I think they need to give us a little bit more respect than publishing it in the paper without a letter or any kind of communication to us. And I think that's your job to kind of, not demand it, but just say, hey, could we have a little more information on this? But we need to go in with a plan. To go to Trenton without some plan, some idea, is a waste of everybody's time. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner. I think that the commission is doing the most that they can do, given the circumstances, exploring what the state's going to allow or not going to allow. I think the fact that the commissioner of the DEP called the mayor shows respect for Margate. And the fact that he's going to have a meeting with the mayor shows respect. But, and we're going to see what's going to happen. And I think at this point, nobody really knows what's going to happen. But I think that if it seems, from reading the papers, which is all the information that we have, that the governor really wants this. Okay? And I think that if he really wants it, I think he's going to get it. Okay? I really do. Now, maybe not. Maybe we can have a little wiggle room in there. Maybe you can do this. Maybe you can do that. At least there is going to be a meeting, which I think is a positive sign. But if it comes down that this is what it is, I think you're going to have to, look in the mirror and say, what are we fighting here? If he wants it, he's going to get it. Let's be real, okay? You're not going to stop this. So, I think I would like you to face reality if it comes to that, right? And not try to embark on a lawsuit that we're going to end up losing and could conceivably cost the taxpayers $500 million, maybe more, and will gain nothing. That's all.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else?
Mark Cortelli, 114 North Lancaster Avenue. I just want to bring to light again about that Army Corps of Engineers did a big study, and they handed out a brochure, and I got a copy of it from Tommy, and took a look at it. And in this brochure, they showed where they studied various methods of protecting the property of the beach towns. And, they had dunes, and they had bulkheads, and they had jetties, and they showed where each one fell down on a job, and each one was costly and whatever, and their result was that dunes are the best. But item number 11, and I would suggest that you get a copy of this for your meeting. Get a copy of that brochure, and it's their own study. And item number 11 says, although it's worded backwards, it says that dunes are no better than bulkheads. This is where they studied the bulkheads. This is the part they did there. And they went on to say that bulkheads will protect the properties of the city, which sounded really good. And though they're no better than dunes, I wouldn't have expected it to be better than the dunes, because you're building a mountain in front of a bulkhead, and you're going to replenish it. The benefit you have of bulkheads is that you do it once, and this wood that you build it with kind of loves water, and it will stay for years and years and years. I mean, 100 years later. So once you do this is a one-time outlay. Whereas the dunes, what you gain from the dunes is it replenishes the beach. But it's kind of a false benefit, because then you have to replenish the dune. And the dune will again deteriorate down onto the beach again and keep replenishing it until the dune is gone. And that's your reservoir of sand, and you have to replenish your reservoir of sand again. So you're always going to be back here. And this is an ongoing thing, whether it's every 3 years, 5 years, or whatever. And they go on to say that they, after going through all this bulkhead explanation, they end up, the reason it was rejected, because it was too costly. So read that really well, and I can't believe that it's more costly than something that will go on forever. Ever and ever. That's a long time, ever and ever. And for something to go on over and over again, it just sounds to me like that's got to be more costly. So if it's no better than the dunes, I would like to offer a positive thing that the dunes are no better than bulkhead increases. And I think if you presented that at the meeting, here's your own information, you know, it shows that you want to also protect the property, and you want to work with the spirit of the thought of protecting the property. And you're going to, you know, it's not that you're just rejecting this because you don't, you know, like heavy people or something, whatever. You just want, you want to protect the property, and you think this is the best way, and your citizens of Margate believe that that's, you feel that they believe it, you haven't actually taken a vote, but you believe that they might be much more amenable to that, raising it 2 feet or so. So thank you. I would have that at the meeting with me, if I were you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kurt Kugel, 9510 Monmouth Avenue in Margate. First, I'd like to thank all you guys for the good job you've done for the city of Margate through the years. I appreciate it. I hope the citizens do. I've been studying this project thing with Sands for as long as it's been the issue for the last 4 or 5 months. And about 2-3 weeks ago, I went to a meeting in Longport concerning the dunes, and there was a Corps of representatives there, gave an hour presentation, and it was very interesting. I'm sure you've heard pretty much the same thing. But one thing that was pointed out, there was a gentleman's name was mentioned by the name of Scott Farrell. He is a professor of environmental things at Stockton College, and he wasn't there, but I was referred to him to give me some more information concerning the dunes. And I called him, and he gave me a lot of explanation. He's been on these projects for years through the coast of New Jersey, mostly New Jersey. And his opinion is that regardless of, you know, you've been back and forth, that we really should have the dunes, because basically it's not going to cost us that much to do it. It's the federal government's going to finance it, or the state, whoever it is, really going to finance it, and it can only help the situation. Now, previous to his conversation, I voted against the dunes, and I was kind of totally against it. But I've kind of changed my mind now, and only because I see that Margate would be in better circumstances to have the dunes, because the cost is minimal over the years. If you look to the future, it's not going to cost Margate anything to have this done. I've seen all the weather here for the last 50 years, and of course we have erosion and so forth, but I don't see it being as not a positive thing. And the most significant thing he said to me, that he says, regardless of what all you people think, this will get done by the state or the federal government. He absolutely feels that it's going to get done regardless of what we think or feel about the situation. He definitely thinks that the laws and the legality of it it's going to happen. And to me, in the end result is it's not going to be a bad. I think it's going to be a good thing for Margate. It's not going to look that nice. I'll tell you that. I'm on the boardwalk every day. I see what's going on in Ventnor, and I see the dune, you know, there, so forth. It's not going to look as nice, but the end result, that it'll be a less expense to the city if we ever do get a big storm. That's it.
Thank you, Kurt. Anyone else? Last chance. Motion to close the section of public comment?
I'll make a motion that we close.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Mr. Dalby?
Yes.
Is there any public comment on the resolutions and second reading of ordinances?
Sewell, 22 West Drive. Can somebody translate Resolution 238 into plain English? What are they saying? And as appropriate, who's the appropriating authority? What is it saying, Solicitor?
There was a fund established to accept gifts for relief from hurricane damage. To accept relief from hurricane damage. And I believe, I don't have the exact amount, I think it was about, how much was it? About $350 in total amount of gifts. And so our chief financial officer felt that we don't need a separate special account for gifts and that we can cancel that and put that $350 into the general fund. Believe it or not, some people actually donated money to the city.
Altruism,
Yes, it was.
Solicitor, altruism.
And it was a special account. We felt that she felt that we should have a special account for these gifts. But now that the crisis is over, and we're going to wrap that up and put it in the general fund.
On a less altruistic note, Mayor, let us go down to number 240. And in the interest of good accountancy, Solicitor, do we have the precise number of hours billed as of December 5th, 2013? 1,800 hours? How many hours have we cranked up this year, Solicitor?
It was limited, if you remember, John.
I understand. I'm not quibbling with that 1,100 hours, Mayor. I'm asking how much of that maximum was utilized this past 12 months. I think it's a legitimate question, and I'd like a legitimate answer.
I don't know.
You don't know, Mayor? Is that a surprise?
For you, John.
I know.
You don't know. Well, I'm saying that this is poor
You
accountancy.
didn't hear me. You're missing something there. You
It's
didn't
the
hear.
reverb.
I said I do know.
Oh, well, let's hear the precise number of hours.
The last contract was for 1,250 hours for
Yes.
2013. So by the end of the year, I'll be pretty close to the 1,250 hours. We reduced it to 1,100 hours for next year.
But with the same salary, are we saying that? Because if you look at this, 1,100 hours, it works out to, I think, 105,500 or something in that neighborhood, which in reality is not 105,000, because that's 105,000 based upon part-time hours. And if we extrapolated those hours out to a full-time position, it would be close to $200,000 for CFO.
Now, that is not correct. Your math is not correct.
Well, what's incorrect about my math?
Because the amount of hours that people work in this city is about 1,500 hours of work.
Well, I would certainly make sure.
And there are no benefits. And if I work 1,250, I work pretty close to what this city's full-time hour benefits are.
Well, perhaps CFO, we could take a page out of what's happening in Detroit, Michigan, and Chicago, Illinois.
That's correct.
And we cannot continue playing Kris Kringle on a non-stop basis.
Could you asked the solicitor to interpret that ordinance and want to know the last resolution, what he meant. Could you interpret that last sentence of yours?
As appropriate.
John, you have 15 seconds.
I think I'll stop on the head.
I wish you would.
Good. Thank you, John.
Anyone else, please?
What you want to check is the budget.
Mayor, one piece of
Sit
it.
down.
Wait, 1 second, Mayor. 1 second. 1 second. That meeting with in Trenton, it should be taped so everybody can enjoy it. And perhaps Fred might do a little pro bono that day and go up to the crime capital of the world with you.
John, sit down. Thank you. Anyone else? Is there a motion to close this public comment?
I make a motion that we close public comment.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
Your turn, Tom.
Second reading of ordinance 2013-23, amending Chapter 175 land use for the change in northeast portion of Holy Trinity property.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance 2013-24, amending Chapter 132 fees for the emergency medical services.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Close?
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Close.
Yes.
The first reading of ordinance 25, amending the salary ordinance, second reading is December 19th at 5 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Second. I seconded it.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 26, amending chapter 26924, water and sewer charges.
I make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
Resolution 234, authorized payment of claims and payroll.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
235, authorizes the auction for ice cream vending as hereforto described.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
236, rescinds previously adopted resolution as a result of the gifts.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
237, request approval of items of revenue and appropriation for a recycling tonnage grant.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
238, authorizes the finance officer to cancel a grant appropriation reserves and grants receivable.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
239, as discussed, interlocal services agreement with the County of Atlantic City of Ventnor regarding Ventnor Storm Garden.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
Number 240, authorizes renewal of the business administrator contract.
I'll make that motion with great pleasure.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Willard? Ms.
Yes.
Dalby?
Yes.
And 241, authorizes transfers in the 2013 budget.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And I'll second.
Mr. Becker? Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you all for being here.